little story for you. It's a story from my childhood. It don't make much sense, but it's true. That's something I'm learning. It's the things that don't make much sense that are usually true. It's an Ohio story. It takes place there, not like Ohio's a character. I just mean the story takes place in a town in West Ohio near Indiana. Think Dairy Queen. Think drive-through movie theaters that closed on account of nobody drive through them. Think drive-through liquor marts that don't have that problem. Think a main street where all the stores got display cases full of flies. That's the kind of town I mean. And while you're thinking about this town in West Ohio, you've got to think about a lake. And that's real important. About 10 miles out of town, there's this long road on your left, which leads to this big man-made lake, and a few houses that sometimes even the mailman forgets. Think green water. Think boats knocking against docks. Think mosquitoes about this size. I spent a lot of summers on that lake when I was a kid, and this story happens during one of those summers. It ain't a story about me. It ain't a story about me. It's a story about, well, it's a story about Charlotte. Skinny Charlotte McGraw. One hot, sticky summer in a town in West Ohio, a boy named Jamie is hit by a car, leaving his sister, Charlotte, and a gang of his teenage classmates to make sense of his sudden death. Part tragedy, part urban legend, the K of D explores the meaning of grief, revenge, and ultimately the healing power of storytelling. That's the thing about legends. If you tell them right, they can keep a person breathing. The K of D by Laura Schellhardt. The first thing you gotta know about Charlotte is that she was a twin. She had a twin brother named Jamie. He was skinny like Charlotte, except with freckles on his nose and a black front tooth, which he said he got when their screen door smacked him in the face. Which is kind of funny, because they ain't got a screen door, they got a glass door. And it slides. In any case, Charlotte and Jamie were like their own little planet of one. They spoke this language together that sounded like clicks and whistles, sometimes a grunt. Kind of like that. Quisp Drucker called it pygmy talk, kind of he'd seen some TV special about some tribes in Australia who wear towels on their butts and talk in just that same way. I thought it was cool, but it made Quisp shiver, which made Quisp mad. Listen, Jamie, you got something to say, you say it like a man now. And like a natural speaking man? Come on, dude, seriously, what the hell does that mean? But Jamie just laughed, and Charlotte just bit her lower lip, and they never did tell. Charlotte and Jamie also had a bunch of games that only they knew the reason or the rules for. Like, they used to sit out on the rock, stretching into the lake, and make little boats out of paper. They'd write messages on those boats and set them off into the water, clicking and calling after them things like, be brave, float fast. I found one of those boats once, stuck in the reeds. The message inside it read, someone get us out of this God-forsaken place. I used to think they wrote that to be funny, but anymore I'm not so sure. Anyway, if you can imagine two kids with torn jeans and dirty faces who talk like pygmies and leave long, skinny shadows on the ground, then you can imagine Jamie and Charlotte. The only thing else you need to know is that Jamie died. He was hit by a car on his way to the school bus. He was on a skateboard, is the thing. You know, he was showing off, digging and dagging in front of the bus. I kept yelling at him, get out of the street, Jamie, but he just yelled back, what are y'all trying? something about the center line. I'm gonna jump it, is what he yelled. I'm gonna jump that center line. So then he goes to jump it, and that's when the rusty blue Dodge tore around the bend and crashed right into Jamie. That's when the rusty blue Dodge sent Jamie flying. I'm telling you, it happened real slow and real fast, like in a movie. But he flew that day. The little guy, he just flew. I have this image of Jamie flapping his arms and taking the sky like some skinny, shadowless bird. But he didn't, of course. He hit the ground a few yards away. Trent Hoffman said he thought it was God coming to get Jamie. On account he landed right by the billboard that says, "God's watching." Are you? Now, I don't know much about God, but I know that when he wants you, you don't send a Dodge. And another thing, the driver of that Dodge was a local man, Johnny Whistler, and we were familiar enough with Johnny's reputation to know one thing for certain. It wasn't God coming to get Jamie, because he'd have sent someone else. Oh my God. That man is like a total monster. I mean, he's the kind of person you read about in the papers. He's the kind of person who picks up girls when they're on like a jog. I mean, you meet someone like him in a dark alley and like, oh my God. Yeah, well, what's up with Jamie's parents is what I want to know. I mean, when the cops told him the news, Mrs. McGraw just blinked at him. Not like she was crying, more like she had something in her eye. And Mr. McGraw just mumbled something about it getting late, and they drove off into town without another word about it. You see, like, that's interesting. Why would they do that, do you think? Like, in this scenario especially, why would you just pick up and go into town? Whatever the reason, Mr. and Mrs. McGraw left Charlotte on the front porch, staring out at the lake. She wouldn't come out, and she wouldn't let anyone in. She just sat there, blowing circles of hot air onto the glass. She stopped speaking after that. That's not my story, that's just something you should know. And this, you should know this too. Charlotte was there when Jamie died. People tend to forget that. I mean, she never talked about it, but she was just a few steps behind the others, and she saw her twin brother. Saw her twin brother. She was running toward that billboard when it hit the ground. And when she got there, she took his head in her hands, and he whispered something to her. And she put her face close to his, kissed her, real gently, right on the lips. And then he closed his eyes and went, wherever it is you go at the end of things. It's hard to say what happened after that summer. Not for some people, but for Charlotte. Might be she found a way out of that God-forsaken place. Might be she found it wasn't so God-forsaken after all. That's the thing about legends. They don't much concern themselves with after. In any case, people are talking. The legend is making its rounds. You might decide to tell it, and that'd be okay, but don't forget. It ain't a story about, oh, let's just say it's a story about Charlotte. Skinny,